Hai, Assalamualaikum. My name is Rosmawati Masalan, and today we'll present about the topic of Article 6 of the Federal Constitution. Right. Alright. Let me start with the introductions. Okay. What is Article 6 of the Federal Constitution? As we can see here, Article 6 of the Federal Constitution is all about slavery and labor force prohibited. On Article 6 of the Malaysian Federal Constitution, it is focused on the crucial issue of prohibiting slavery and forced labor in Malaysia. Article 6 of the Federal Constitution specifically addresses the prohibition of slavery and forced labor, and it is also establishing important rights and protection for individuals. Slavery and forced labor are grave violations of human rights that undermine the dignity and freedom of individuals. Article 6 ensures that such practices are strictly prohibited within the legal framework of Malaysia. And last but not least, for me, this presentation aims to provide a clear understanding of the key points outlined in Article 6, it is highlighting the significance of the constitutional provision in upholding the right of individuals in Malaysia. Alright, that's all for my part, and I'll pass it to the next person. Thank you.
Hello madam, my name is Muhammad Fahim. So I will be explaining about the Article 6 Clause 1 of the Fundamental Liberties, which is slavery. So for the emphasis on Article 6 Clause 1, the first subsection of Article 6 states that no person shall be held in slavery. For the definition, slavery refers to a condition where individuals are treated as property, deprived of their freedom, and also forced to work against their will. So for the importance, this subsection enshrines the fundamental right to be free from slavery, and also ensuring that no individuals can be subjected to such inhuman practice within the Malaysian legal framework. For the commitment to human rights by explicitly prohibiting slavery, Malaysia also demonstrates its commitment to upholding human rights principles and also protecting the inherent dignity and freedom of every individual. For the historical context, the inclusion of these provisions reflects the recognition of the past injustice associated with slavery and the determination to prevent its resurgence in Malaysian society. So the alignment with international standards, Article 6 Clause 1 aligns with the International Human Rights Conventions that strongly condemns slavery as a gross violation of human rights. So for the conclusion, the inclusion of Article 6 Clause 1 in the Malaysian Federal Constitution reinforced the nation's commitment to ensuring the eradication of slavery and also safeguarding the rights and freedom of all individuals within the country. So that's all from me. I will pass it to my national members.
Hi, I'm Adam Daniel. So now I would like to present about the Article 6, Clause 2, which is the prohibition of forced labor. Okay, so focus on the 6 Clause 2. The second subsection of Article 6 prohibits all form of forced labor. The definition of the forced labor basically refers to the work or service that is done involuntarily under any coercion form, such as threat, and without the free will of the person, or we call it consent. So the key point of this subsection, which is the Malaysian Federal Constitution, unequivocally prohibits any form of forced labor within the country. So it forms a protection of individual rights. So this provision ensures that the individuals have their own rights to choose their employment freely and are protected against any exploitative practices that would compel them to work against their will and consent. So, the subsection encouraging fair and dignified labour practice. By prohibiting the forced labour, Malaysia promotes fair and dignified labour conditions, ensuring that individuals are not subjected to any exploitation and also abusive working condition. So the government rules plays a crucial roles in enforcing and upholding this prohibition, taking measures to identify and address instances of any forced labor. So the Article 6 Clause 2 reflects Malaysia's commitment to promoting and protecting the rights and welfare of its citizens, to guarantee that no individual that will be subjected under the forced labor. So next is 6 clause 3, the acceptation for work or service resulting from conviction. So this third subsection of Article 6 provide an exception regarding work or service required from a person as a consequences of any conviction. So the definition of the exception is states that work or service resulting from a conviction of or finding of guilt does not fall under any definition of forced labor as long as it is carried out under the supervision and control of the public authority. So the purpose of exception, this exception recognizes that certain types of work or service may be assigned as part of a lawful punishment or rehabilitation process. So the differentiation from forced labor, while the work or service may be compulsory, it is not considered forced labor within the context of Article 6 if it is carried out under the supervision and the control of the authority. So safeguarding against the exploitation is one of the main aim for this subsection, which is the requirement of supervision and control by a public authority ensures that the work or service is not abused or exploited. So we go on to upholding the rule of law. So this provision basically ensures the imposition of work or service as a legal consequences it is carried out within the framework of the law to protect the rights and dignity of any individuals that involve. So the Article 6 Clause 3 strikes a balance between addressing legal consequences and ensuring that work or service resulting from a conviction is not equated with any forced labor as long as it is supervised and controlled by the public authority. So that's all from me.
Thank you, Adam. So now we're going to see about the transfer of employment within public authorities. So in the Article 6 on subsection 4 of Federal Constitution, the Article 6 this subsection deals with the transfer of employment within public authorities. So the target that we can see here are public authorities, the public employees. This provision applies specifically to the transfer of employees between public authorities. And for the description of the transfer, when a public authority transfers the whole or part of its function to another public authority, the employees of the first authority are obligated to serve the second authority. But this is not considered as forced labor because the transfer of employment within public authorities as described in Article 6 subsection 4 is explicitly excluded from the definition of forced labor under Article 6. And they also have a protection against labor disputes, which means the provision clarifies that employees undergoing such transfers cannot demand any rights from either the first or second public authority based on the transfer of their employment. So the purpose of this provision is it allows for the smooth transfer of responsibilities between public authorities without infringing upon the rights of employees or classifying the service as forced labor. So to ensure the continuity of public services is by facilitating the transfer of employees. The provision ensures the uninterrupted delivery of public service during the transition of functions between public authorities. So in conclusion, Article 6 of Section 4 provides a framework for the transfer of employment within public authorities, safeguarding the rights of employees while allowing for efficient administrative processes and the continued provisions of essential public service. That's all from me.
Hi, my name is Alicia Cassandra and I will be presenting the case law for Article 6. So, the first case that I took is the case of public prosecutor against Gopinalan. In this case, it involves the prosecution of Gopinalan, a Malaysian employer. It is a charges relating to subjecting his Indonesian maid to slavery and forced labor. So the victim, an Indonesian maid, is employed by Gopinalan. She testified in the court about her ordeal. She described that she was subjected to long working hours, physical abuse, and severe restriction on her freedom of movement. The evidence presented by the prosecution supported her claims and highlighted the exploitative nature of her employment. The court carefully examined the evidence and found that Gopinalan is indeed guilty of multiple offenses. This includes the offense of forced labor under Article 6 of the Federal Constitution of Malaysia. The court also recognized that the action of the defendant violated the fundamental liberties guaranteed under the Constitution and undermined the principle of human dignity and freedom. So in this case, it served as a significant example of the legal system commitment to protect individuals from slavery and also forced labor. It also highlights the importance of upholding the prohibition of such practices and ensuring the rights and well-being of domestic workers in Malaysia. The judgment of this case also sent a strong message that the violators of forced labor would be held accountable for their action and that the rights of individuals would be guaranteed. And this next case, it is also similar with the previous case that I mentioned. This case is the Lembaga Getah Malaysia and another against Hulmehan and another. So this case involved a group of plantation workers in Malaysia who alleged that they were subjected to forced labor and held in conditions similar to slavery. The plaintiff, a group of workers, filed a lawsuit against the Lembaga Getah Malaysia and another. The workers claimed that they were forced to work long hours, their wages were withheld, and they faced restriction on their freedom of movement. They also argued that this condition amounted to forced labor and violated their fundamental liberties. So, the court carefully examined the evidence and testimony presented by both parties, and they acknowledged that the workers' claim and recognized the severe violation of their rights. The court also held that the action of the defendant were breaching the Article 6 of the Federal Constitution of Malaysia, which prohibits slavery and also forced labor. So, in this judgment, the court ruled in the favor of the workers, highlighting the importance of upholding fundamental liberties and protecting individuals from being forced to work. The court also emphasized the responsibility of employers and authority to respect the rights of workers and ensure fair and just working conditions. So this case served as a significant legal precedent in addressing labor exploitation and forced labor in Malaysia. It also reinforced the constitutional protection against slavery and forced labor and sent a strong message that this practice would not be tolerated. So that's all for both the summary of this case. Both of these cases demonstrate the Malaysian court's commitment to upholding the Article 6 of Federal Constitution, which they prohibit slavery and forced labor, and also telling us the importance of protecting the rights and dignity of an individual in the country. That's all from me. I'm going to pass it to the next person.
As a conclusion for our presentation, Article 6 of the Malaysian Federal Constitution comprises 4 subsections that address the prohibition of slavery and forced labor, exceptions for work resulting from conviction, and the transfer of employment within public authorities, upholding human rights. Article 6 demonstrates Malaysia's commitment to safeguarding the rights and dignity of individuals, ensuring freedom from slavery and forced labor. Protecting against exploitation, the Constitution unequivocally prohibits slavery and forced labor, aiming to prevent any form of coerced and involuntary work. Balancing legal consequences, the exception for work resulting from conviction recognizes the need for lawful punishment while ensuring supervision and control by a public authority to prevent exploitation. Smooth administrative transitions. The provision regarding the transfer of employment within public authorities facilitates the seamless transfer of responsibilities while protecting the rights of employees involved. Article 6 reinforces Malaysia's dedication to human rights, fair labor practices, and the rule of law, promoting freedom, dignity, and protection against exploitation for all individuals. The inclusion of Article 6 in the Malaysian Federal Constitution reflects the nation's commitment to upholding fundamental human rights and serves as a strong foundation for ensuring a just and equitable society. That's all from me. Thank you.